How does a quiet, ordinary planet prepare to be erased by something so large it barely notices us? It's a strange thought, isn't it? Imagining your whole world labeled as Sol 3 on someone else's paperwork already filed under future possession. I've always been fascinated by that cold mismatch. An empire so sure of itself it sends a scripted ultimatum, and a small world that smiles on the surface while secretly building ships no one is allowed to mention. It really makes you wonder what your own leaders would hide from you. Not out of malice, but because they are afraid that if you knew, you would never sleep again. So tonight, instead of replaying your day, you and I can drift somewhere else for a while, into a future where Earth looks peaceful and harmless. Yet far past Neptune, a fleet painted in starlight absorbing black waits in silence. Get your blanket, settle in however you like, because in this story you are not a soldier or a hero. You're something weightless and unseen, moving beside Admiral Evelyn Hart as the galactic empire blinds every screen on Earth and gives your species 30 days to kneel. You'll watch the hidden war they never planned to tell you about. The Black Armada waking up in the dark, and the first sharp moment when an invincible empire realizes this little blue planet has teeth. So tonight, you are not a soldier, not a leader, not a citizen of Earth. You are something quieter. You are an unseen presence, calm and weightless, moving beside people who do not know you are there. You drift above cities, through quiet rooms, and out into the dark around Earth. You watch without changing anything, like a patient camera that never blinks. In the late 23rd century, Earth has done something strange. It has prepared for a war almost no one believes will ever come. While children played under clear skies and trains slid through clean cities, a small group of people built a secret, silent fleet. Far from home, they called it the Black Armada. Most humans never heard that name. They just lived their lives, happy that storms were gentle now and air was clean. They did not know that in deep space, mining and research stations were turning out dark warships with no names painted on their hulls. They did not know that their leaders had signed a quiet promise. If a distant empire ever tried to crush Earth, the answer would not be surrender alone. It would be careful planning, quiet courage, and ships that hid in the dark. You are here to watch the moment when all of that preparation is tested. You will follow Admiral Evelyn Hart and those around her as they try to keep their small blue planet alive without turning it into a copy of the thing they fear. Above Earth, beyond the soft line of the atmosphere, something is already on its way. You can feel it, like a pressure in the night sky. And so we begin. It started as a light in the sky that was not a star. High over Earth, in the thin blue air, where the planet faded into space, something bright appeared for a moment. It was not a meteor. It was too steady, too exact. Satellites turned their lenses. Orbital stations paused their work. Quiet alarms lit up on hidden screens, and then, almost at the same time, every public screen on Earth went black. City billboards, home walls, risk screens, Shop windows cooled displays, even the giant sky panels that curved over plazas, each turned to the same dark gray. Noise dropped out of streets as ads cut off mid-sentence and shows froze mid-frame. For a heartbeat, there was nothing. Then a symbol appeared. It was a circle broken by 3 straight lines, like a star, with its light pulled in. No words, just that sign, sharp and plain. Somewhere a child stopped chewing. Somewhere else, a taxi slowed without the driver really knowing why. In a quiet room below the main government complex in Nairobi, President Daniel Cross watched the same symbol appear on a wall, 3 meters wide. He did not move. He had dreamed about this moment, and not in a good way. A voice came next, calm, cold, with a tone that suggested it did not care about being liked. Attention, inhabitants of Seoul. 3. This is a standard notification from the Galactic Empire. In a classroom in Sao Paulo, a teacher looked up, chalk still in hand. On a farm dome in Mongolia, a woman looked away from her crops and stared at the air. On a floating platform over the Pacific, workers stopped mid-task and faced the giant curved display above them. "You have been observed," the voice went on. "Your world has crossed the threshold for contact. You possess fusion-level energy, orbital industry, and extrasolar capability. Under imperial law, you are required to submit to integration." The symbol slowly rotated. Small white text appeared under it in a language no one on Earth had seen before. Then shifted through dozens of languages, including many from Earth. The system had studied them, copied them, and now used them without effort. You will dismantle all offensive capabilities. You will grant full access to Imperial survey and security forces. You will accept administrative guidance. Refusal will be considered rebellion. Rebellion will be corrected. On the wall in Nairobi, President Cross's reflection floated faintly in the dark around the sign. He was in his late 50s, hair mostly gray, eyes tired but sharp. Beside him, a woman in a simple navy uniform watched the screen without blinking. "Admiral Evelyn Hart," the voice finished. "You have 30 standard days to respond. This notice is public. All networks are under Imperial observation. Any attempt to resist will be recorded as evidence." Then the symbol faded. Screens returned to their normal feeds. As if nothing had happened, traffic resumed. Ads burst back into color and sound. A cartoon voice started talking about a new drink, but Earth did not go back to normal. You drifted through those first hours, watching. In kitchens, people spoke too fast, as if speed could keep fear away. In bars, some laughed a little too loud, calling it a prank or a trick. Others sat silent on train seats, eyes far away, mind racing through questions that had no answers. In newsrooms, agents argued, "Is it real? Is it a hack? Should we run it?" In a secure, quiet room under Nairobi, there was no argument. President Cross turned away from the wall. Timestamp? 17 seconds global blackout. A staff member said. Message length, 42 seconds. Source, extrasolar. Signal relays bent around our outer web before we even saw it. They were inside our net before we could react. Evelyn Hart folded her hands behind her back. Her dark hair was pulled tight. There was a thin white line on her left cheek, an old scar from a training accident in orbit years ago. They wanted us to feel that, she said softly, to see how late we already are. President Cross looked at her. He saw the calm set of her jaw, the careful control in her voice. He felt a small swell of relief. He was not alone with this. "Admiral," he said, "consider this the activation event. No one else in that room moved, but you felt the air itself change, like the room had taken a sharp, silent breath. Years earlier, after strange readings near the edge of the solar system and faint signals that did not match any human design, a small group had met in secret. Presidents, scientists, military officers, systems planners. No public broadcast, no open vote, just a simple question. If there is something out there stronger than us, what do we do? Panic was an option. So was denial. So was public fear, loud and bright. But in that meeting, late at night, another choice slowly formed. Quiet preparation. A classified protocol was written. It said that if Earth ever made clear direct contact with a controlling outside power, and if that power demanded full surrender, then certain buried orders would start to move. First, a group of deep space mining and research stations would switch modes. Second, a hidden command network, separate from public channels, would come alive. Third, a woman named Evelyn Hart would no longer be just a fleet planner. She would become the commanding officer of a project almost no one knew existed. The Black Armada, confirm Horizon Black, President Cross said now. A staff member's fingers moved quickly over a secure surface. Confirmed. Codes match all recorded keys. Protocol is active. Evelyn looked up at the ceiling, at nothing in particular. Her voice was quiet. Then we stop pretending, she said. Far from Earth, beyond the orbits of Mars and the main asteroid belt, satellites that looked like simple rocks turned their faces. Shields opened, antennas unfolded like thin metal flowers. Data poured into channels that did not use public names. In the Kuiper Belt, where dwarf planets circled in slow, cold paths, huge structures rotated. To normal scanners, they looked like mining rigs and ice refineries, registered as private or research platforms. But inside, vast empty frames that had waited for years began to move. You moved there now, in your silent way, gliding through open bays as alarms stayed quiet, but light shifted from blue to a deep, focused white. Workers in gray suits checked panels and then checked them again. They had signed contracts years ago that did not match what they were really doing. They thought they were just building heavy cargo frames and long-range haulers. Only a few knew the deeper truth. Dr. Priya Iyer stood at a railing high above one such bay. Her black hair was tied in a loose knot. Glasses sat forgotten on top of her head. On the floor below, a long dark shape lay like a shadow given metal form. No markings, no bright edges. Just smooth, strangely empty black. A tech climbed the steps to her. Doctor, steps to her. Dr. Ire, we just received a Horizon Black ping confirmed code. Priya's hand tightened on the rail. She had helped write the stealth equations that turned these ships into holes in the sensor noise. She had modeled heat sinks, emission fields, low signature drives. In her head, this day had always been sometime later. Not now, time until first vessel can deploy. She asked. Core systems have been in idle ready for months. The tech said, we can bring the first strike wing to full power in 16 hours. Do it, she said. Quietly, no fanfare, no wideband chatter, all local lines only. The tech nodded and hurried away. Priya stayed, looking down at the dark hull. It was longer than a high-speed train, angular in some places, soft in others. Its surface drank in light. If you looked at it from a distance, it almost seemed like a missing piece of sight. Black hulls are ready, Evelyn. She said into a secure mic on her collar. You say when? On a small command carrier in a hidden orbit beyond Neptune, Commander Mason Reed watched a map of the solar system as new symbols lit up. Slim, triangular icons. Black Armada vessels moving from dock to ready. His hands moved quickly, arranging them into patterns on his display. Admiral Hart. Mason, she said. You are primary tactical. Dr. Ire controls the tech. I handle political and command. The president will deal with the public. Do you understand what that means? Mason looked at the map. Tiny, dark ship icons near Pluto, more near Eris. Hidden transit routes marked in faint gray. It means we pretend Earth is still harmless, he said. And we hide the knife behind our back. Not a knife, Evelyn said. A shield with sharp edges. We are not here to become them. You drifted back to Earth. On public channels, President Cross spoke later that day. His speech was careful, calm. He did not say empire, he said contact. He did not say surrender, he said negotiation. People argued in comment streams. Some asked for open resistance. Others said there was no chance and that Earth should accept whatever was asked. No one on those channels heard the brief, encoded message he sent just before that speech, through a narrow band that bent around normal satellites and bounced off a silent rock near Neptune. To Black Command, he said, Horizon Black is confirmed. Objective, protect Earth's ability to decide its own future. Avoid public panic for as long as possible. You have my full backing. In a deep hidden control room far beyond Pluto, Admiral Evelyn Hart listened a bride. No one wore bright colors. The room was dim. Screens glowed with faint light. She let the president's words settle into the room, then turned to her staff. You heard him, she said. We are not here to make history. We are here to buy time. Every day that Earth keeps its will, its choice, is a day we succeed. Mason Reed glanced at her. What if the Empire does not give us days, Evelyn's eyes drifted to the projection of a distant star line. Somewhere out there, the Empire's ships were already turning toward Sol, even if Earth's people did not believe it yet. "Then we take hours," she said. "Minutes, seconds, whatever we can." Priya's voice came over the link from her shipyard. "Black hulls are waking up," she said. "They are hungry for power, but they do not shine. Our stealth fields hold. To outside sensors, we still look like harmless metal junk in the Kuiper Belt." Evelyn closed her eyes for a short moment. In her mind, she saw Earth as it had been when she was a child. Crowded, dirty, full of anger. Then she saw Earth now. Clean towers, quiet trains, soft parks under clear domes. She did not want that second image to vanish under fire. "Then we begin," she said. In the weeks that followed, on the surface, life tried to stay normal. People went to work, watched shows, sent messages, complained about small things. At night, though, there were more eyes turned up to the sky. The ultimatum had planted a question in almost every mind. Are we really as small as they say? Above, in the dark past Neptune, an answer was being prepared. A silent armada was coming together, ship by ship, wing by wing. No parades, no speeches, just careful checks, quiet launches, and dark hulls slipping into secret paths. You stayed with them as they moved into place, feeling the slow, steady build of something that most of the planet still looked harmless. But in the deep cold beyond, its hidden fleet was almost ready to meet the Empire's first touch. The Empire did not wait for 30 days to pass. 19 days after the ultimatum, long before Earth's public answer was due. Subtle sensors at the edge of the solar system felt something strange. It was not a light, not a picture. It was a pattern, a faint tug on gravity readings, a sharp, unnatural line in deep radio noise. On a small black armada, listening post hiding in the shadow of a frozen rock, an operator sat up straighter. "Transit disturbance," she said. "Sectors 0, 9, high inclination. That is outside normal traffic. Admiral Evelyn Hart's command feed." Lit up, a map of the solar system appeared again, but this time a tiny red shimmer pulsed far beyond Pluto, where the Empire's signal had first bent around Earth's net. "They are here," Mason Reed said, quietly from his control seat. No alarm sounded on Earth, no sirens, no bright warnings. Cargo ships in the inner system went on with their jobs, shuttling materials and people between Earth, Luna, Mars, and the stations. The public nets buzzed with talk about the ultimatum, about whether it was real. No one down there knew that far past the dwarf planets, something inhuman had stepped into their space. You moved out there. Following the first contact, it came as a tear in dark space, not visible to the normal eye. Sensors on the Black Armada ships saw it as a spike, a sudden rearrangement of numbers that meant drive field. Then it stretched and smoothed, and ships began to slide through. They were not like human ships. Human vessels tended to be practical. Cylinders, discs, trusses, smooth plates with clear engines at the back. These were sharp, layered, built like weapons first, and vehicles second. Their hulls shone with a dim, cold glow that came from some kind of field wrapping them like a thin shell. Symbols traced their sides in lines of light. "Advance fleet," Mason said. Watching the icons appear, pattern fits what we modeled. A spear tip, not a hammer. They want to scare us, not waste their main power. Yet, Evelyn watched the numbers. Ship count? 32 capital vessels, Mason replied. Dozens of escorts. Estimate. Enough firepower to erase everything from here to the asteroid belt if we face them in the open. Priya's voice came through from the stealth control center. "They do not know we are here," she said. "Their scans are long wave, broad. They think this is just a quiet, simple system with a noisy inner region." Evelyn nodded slowly, though no one saw her in that moment. She spoke for the record. "Log this first confirmed physical entry of Galactic Empire warships into Sol system. Date the 12th of August, 2285. You watched as the advance fleet slowed, forming a precise formation. From far away, it looked like a glittering spear. Its point turned toward the inner system. On Earth, the night sky still looked normal. People pointed out known planets, known constellations. A few amateur astronomers noticed tiny glitches in their long-range readings and posted about them on small forums, calling them instrument noise. They were not noise. They were the first signs of what the Empire believed would be an easy show. A force back in the Black Armada control room, Mason brought up another layer on his display. Thin, almost invisible curves snaked through the outer system. Unmapped to anyone else, they were the dark transit routes that Dr. Priya Iyer's team had found over years of study. Slight bends in gravity, quiet folded spaces left by old comet paths and strange natural structures in space-time. "Positions of Black Wing?" Evelyn asked. "Black Wing is already in the net," Mason said. "Ships K1 through K8 are hiding in Kuiper debris. Stealth fields are stable. They can see the advance fleet. The fleet cannot see them." On a Black Armada ship parked in the shadow of a slow-rotating ice body, Captain Jonah Blake watched the Empire fleet appear on his own local sensor screen. He felt a tightness in his chest, but his hands stayed steady on the armrests of his chair. He spoke to his crew in a low, even tone. "Look at them," he said. "You are looking at the thing that told our planet to kneel. We will not charge them. We will not try to match them ship for ship. That is not our purpose. Remember your training. We are a knife in the dark, not a wall in the light." His chief sensor officer nodded, eyes on her display. Stealth hull is holding. They have a high-energy sweep running, but it passes around us like we are empty space. The Black Armada ships were different from anything the Empire's captains had faced. Their surfaces stole away heat instead of shedding it out in easy lines. Their fields broke up their own signatures and tossed them into background noise. They kept their drives cool, using stored energy in slow bursts instead of bright, obvious burns. Evelyn's voice reached Jonah from far away. "Captain Blake, this is Hart. You are part of First Contact," she said. "Your objective is simple. You will not let them think this system is easy." "Understood, Admiral," he said. "Rules of engagement," Mason answered. "Short strikes. No long fights. Hit, vanish, hit. Again. Our goal is to confuse and frighten, not to show them everything we can do." Priya added, "And we need survivors on their side, people to carry stories back." Jonah blinked at that. "We are letting some of them live? If their empire runs on fear, then we must give that fear something new to chew on. A rumor that their power is not total, that even a small system like ours can hurt them. But we do it quietly." You felt the focus narrow. Black Wing moved. The dark transit routes were not like normal space lanes. They were thin, hard to spot, even with good sensors. Discovered only after years of watching tiny changes in distant orbits. But once a ship slipped into one, it could move faster than normal drives without lighting up bright drives that shouted here, "I am to every sensor." On the screen, it looked like the ship was sliding into a slightly bent line of darkness, though nothing showed outside his hull. Crew members felt a slight change in their weight, a soft tilt that did not match the visuals. Then they were moving, quietly, fast. "Transit complete in 11 minutes, his pilot said. "We will exit near the rear of their formation." "Good," Jonah replied. "We aim for their logistics spine. Not the big guns. Not yet. Cut their fuel. Cut their eyes, then leave before they can lock us." Back in the Empire fleet, on a bridge lit by a pale blue glow, an Imperial captain stood with hands behind his back, watching his own map. To him, the Sol system looked like a simple diagram, a star, a handful of planets, some debris rings, a new low-level contact at the center. He had been told this mission would be easy. Frighten, punish, prove that resistance was nothing but a brief, stupid noise. He did not expect any serious fight this far out, so when a tiny, sharp spike appeared near his supply line, he frowned but did not feel fear. "Sensor anomaly?" he asked. "Likely dust storm in the belt region, Captain," his officer said. "We are still outside main orbit range." The spike vanished as Jonah's ship slipped out of the route, took a reading, and then dropped back in before turning on any visible drive. "Anomaly logged," the officer said. "No action needed." Evelyn watched all this from her center. "First pass complete," Mason said. "They did not notice. We have the shape of their logistics spine, marking fuel carriers, repair ships, long-range comm relays." Priya studied the energy reading from the Empire's vessels. "Their drives are loud," she said softly. "So bright, so sure the sky belongs to them." "Then we dim them," Evelyn replied. The second pass was not just observation. Jonah's ship and two others slipped across the Empire's rear line like shadows. They did not use missiles in the open sense. They use small, guided charges that hug the grain of the dark transit edges, masked by the Empire's own drive noise. At a preset moment, all 3 Black Armada captains gave the same quiet order. Release. Out in the Empire formation, 3 key ships barely had time to record the incoming signals before their shields spiked and failed. The charges were not huge. They did not blow up the ships in bright fire. They were precise. Each one bent its blast toward a specific core: fuel mixing chambers, field regulators, comm relays. From far away, it looked like 3 tiny flares of light inside the Empire's own glow. Then those 3 ships went dark. Not destroyed, but suddenly helpless. On the Imperial bridge, alarms finally sounded. Loss of primary drive in vessels G12, G13, and R4, an officer shouted. Unknown interference, no impact trail, no visible enemy. The captain straightened. Scan again. Expand range. Look for stealth fields. We are scanning, came the answer. Nothing. Just a gap. Like something is there, but not there. Mason watched their panic from Black Command, his mouth a thin line. They do not have a model for us, he said. They have never fought ships that do not want to be seen. Evelyn nodded. Then we stay unseen as long as we can. Next phase. Not all at once. In rhythm, Priya smiled. Sadly, you always did like careful patterns, she said. Over the next hour, the edge of the solar system turned into a quiet maze. Black Armada ships used the dark transit routes to dart in and out like swift, silent fish around a group of huge metal whales. They would appear just long enough to launch a volley, then vanish into bent gravity before the Empire's left edge lost all its external sensor dishes. Another had its propulsion lines cut, leaving it spinning slowly, helpless, its crew shouting for help on busy channels. 2 smaller escorts simply stopped moving, their main circuits fried by charges that slipped past shields tuned for a different kind of enemy. From Earth's point of view, nothing seemed to change. Stars twinkled. The outer system stayed quiet in public reports. Long-range craft were told to stay well within the orbit of Neptune for safety, and most followed that order without question. But out there, in the dark, the Empire spear was getting invisible cuts. You watched Imperial officers grow more tense. Their formations tightened, then broke and reshaped, trying to cover new blind spots they did not really understand. They fired test beams into empty space, hoping to catch a shadow. They launched drones, which came back with static and noise. And then, as Evelyn had ordered from the very beginning, the Black Armada let itself be seen, not clearly. Not for long, a single black hull ship allowed its field to rise just a little too late. After a strike run for 3 seconds, an Imperial sensor net caught its outline as it slipped into a dark route. Contact, an officer shouted. Unknown vessel, non-Imperial signature. Low heat, black hull, then gone. Images were enhanced. The Empire captains stared at a rough frame of a shape that did not match any known registry. Small compared to their main vessels. No glowing edges. Just a narrow, dark form sliding into nothing. "Send that to Central," he ordered. "Mark this system as hostile." Far away from battle screens on a small station known in secret as a diplomatic relay, Ambassador Leora Venn sat in a quiet, dim bar. The station sat near a trade path far from Earth. Not quite legal. Not quite illegal. Around her, different species sat at tables, talking in low tones in dozens of languages. Leora was half human, half from an old allied colony. Her eyes were a pale green, her hair a soft silver. She had been given an unofficial task by President Cross. "Listen. Send what you can. Help our story. Travel." A trader from an oppressed world sat across from her now, hand shaking a little as he passed a small data crystal under the table. "You did not hear this from me," he said. "Word from an Imperial crew. Relative. Something hit them in a backwater called Sol. They do not know what. They are frightened of a primitive system." Leora closed her hand over the crystal. "Thank you," she said. "Drinks are on me." Later in her small, private cabin, she slotted the crystal into a secure reader. Images appeared, rough, glitchy sensor captures of dark shapes, of ships going dark without warning, of officers shouting in confusion, audio clips of words like invisible attackers, black ships, impossible vectors. Leora smiled, but it was a sad, tired smile. "So it begins," she said to herself. She encoded a message in tiny pieces, hiding it in trade reports, personal notes, and entertainment files. It moved out from the relay station like a quiet seed carried by smugglers, by free traders, by hacked diplomatic lines. To an oppressed mining world, the message arrived as a simple line in a background channel. Empire Advance Fleet damaged in Sol system by unknown defenders. Empire not invincible. To a crowded city on a planet that had been under Imperial rule for generations, the same idea came in a street song, coded by a small rebel group that had friends out in the trade lanes, out in a small blue system where they said nothing could rise. Something black cut their bright fleet and lived under their eyes. People heard it and looked up. Just a song, they told themselves, just a rumor. But hearts that had been quiet for years beat a little faster. Back at the edge of Sol, the Empire's advance fleet finally stopped, trying to push inward. It gathered itself, nursing its wounded, pulling its dead-weight ships into shelter. The captain made a hard choice. He sent a portion of his force back into transit. "Report this to High Command," he said. "This system is not what we thought. They have hidden weapons. Send the main Armada." He believed he was acting with care, with logic. He did not understand that his retreat and the stories carried by his surviving crews were exactly what Earth's Black Armada had hoped for. In Black Command, Mason watched the Imperial icons turn and leave. "They are running," he said softly, "not in full retreat, but enough to tell their story." Priya checked her systems. "We took them apart without a single bright explosion on public feeds," she said. "Our secret remains mostly safe." Evelyn did not smile. Her face stayed calm, but you felt a deep, steady weight behind her eyes. "This was only their first hand," she said. They sent a test. Next time they will not test. They will commit. And the galaxy? President Cross asked, his voice coming through on a secure line. They will hear, Evelyn said, through Leora, through rumors, through the way Imperial officers speak in their own halls. For the first time, some will learn that resistance is not just a dream. It is real. It happened here. She looked at the projection of Earth hanging in the center of the room, a small blue and white ball glowing softly. We just told the galaxy that a small world can hurt an empire, she said. Now we must prepare for what the empire does when it feels pain. Outside, in the calm, endless dark, black Armada ships settled back into hiding. Their fields smoothed, their drives cooled. The scars they had given the enemy did not shine, but they were there, written into data logs and hushed talk on faraway worlds. You floated between all of it, between the quiet pride on black hole bridges, the first tiny sparks of hope on oppressed planets, and the distant angry stirrings at the heart of the Empire. Earth, still mostly unaware on the surface, continued its calm days, but the sky above it now held a secret story. A story of dark ships, sudden strikes, and a message that could not be called back. The Black Armada had met the Empire's first touch, and the galaxy had started to listen. The main Imperial fleet did not arrive quietly. Weeks after the advance force limped away, the deep space sensors that Dr. Priya Iyer had scattered through the outer dark began to show a pattern that frightened even her. It started as many small spikes in far-off space, not here yet, but coming. Transit points flared and settled in a wide arc around Sol, like a storm front still beyond the horizon. Numbers poured into the Black Armada's hidden databases. Numbers poured into the Black Armada's hidden databases. Mass, energy, output, drive field strength. Priya stood over a hollow table in her lab, eyes fixed on a slowly filling display. Mason Reed and Admiral Evelyn Hart watched from Black Command through a live link. "That is not a fleet," Mason said at last. "That is an arm. Empire's spear," Evelyn answered, "the largest they have ever gathered. They said in the ultimatum now, they make good on that promise." Priya tapped a key. The map zoomed out until the solar system was just a small ring around a dot of light. Far beyond, symbols marked the entry paths of hundreds of ships, all turning toward that tiny dot. "Our model says they will try to arrive in linked waves," she said. "Not all at once, but close. They want the shock of mass, the weight of numbers, but with enough control to keep from trampling their own support ships." Mason frowned. "And timing?" 17 days, Priya said. "Give or take some hours. After that, they will start appearing at the edge of Sol in groups, and they will not be testing us this time. On Earth, there was no public countdown, no giant timer on city walls. The president gave careful, hopeful speeches about talks and negotiations. Official channels spoke about ongoing contact and diplomatic exchange. but people could feel something. You moved through streets and trains, past parks and towers. You saw more faces turned upward at night. You heard more questions in late talks between friends. Do you think they will come? Maybe they already did. My cousin works at Luna Orbital. She says there is strange traffic, but she cannot say more. In a high apartment in Lagos, a teenager lay on the floor, watching a star map on the ceiling. Each point of light had a label now, known planets, known stations, but some part of the map, far away, glowed in a slight red. The system AI called it restricted data. The teenager reached up as if to touch it. "What are you hiding?" they asked the air. Down below, in a quiet government room, President Daniel Cross watched a different map, one he had promised never to show the public unless there was no other choice. It showed the Empire's spear. He listened as Evelyn's recorded briefing played. "They are coming with everything they need to erase us," she said. In the calm, steady tone he knew well. Warships, carriers, fuel barges, repair ships, command corps. Their logistics spine is thick. Our job is not to meet them head on. Our job is to break that spine. He looked at the black Armada status line on the side of the display. Ships ready. 147. Stealth capacity. High. Ammo reserves. Limited. He closed his eyes for a moment. He understood what limited meant. Every shot would have to count. There would be no waste. On a small table beside him lay 2 speech drafts. One was for a world that might wake up to find that an empire did not have to be obeyed. The other was for a world facing fire. He hoped he would never use the second, but he kept it close. In the deep outer dark, black Armada ships slid into final positions. There was no straight line of defense, no neat ring around the planet. Instead, they took up places along the dark transit routes in the shadows of Kuiper Belt objects above and below the plane of the solar system. If you could have seen the full pattern with your own eyes, it would have looked like a loose net. Large gaps between knots, no solid front. To a mind trained in old wars, it might even look weak. To Evelyn Hart, it was perfect. She stood in the center of Black Command, a small circle of clear floor under her feet. Around her, the room curved up like a quiet theater, each station glowing with data. Mason Reed sat at tactical, hands ready. Priya's image floated in a side panel, linked in from her stealth and drive control hub. Evelyn spoke, and her voice reached every black Armada bridge. "This is Admiral Hart," she said. "In less than 3 weeks, the main Imperial fleet will enter this system. We will meet them away from Earth. We will take the hit first, out here, where we can still shape the field." She paused, choosing simple words. "We are not here to die for drama. We are here to fight to live. Our goal is not old hero stories. Our goal is time. Time for Earth to stay free. Time for the galaxy to see that the Empire can be hurt. Every ship you disable, every link you cut in their chain, adds to that time." On Jonah Blake's bridge, the crew listened in silence. Some leaned forward. Some leaned back. Evelyn went on. "We will not win by lining up and trading fire. Their spears too heavy. We win by cutting what holds the spear together. We win by cutting what holds the spear together. Hit their logistics spine, hit their command links. Hit, then leave through dark transit, appear again where they do not expect. Make them doubt their own maps, Mason added. Voice firm, tactical doctrine is as trained. No bright burns unless needed to survive. No long beating on a single target if it cost our position. No long beating on a single target if it cost our position. If you can hurt and vanish, you do. If you cannot, you move. If you are pinned, call it. We will not waste lives by pretending we are invincible. Priya's image leaned closer. Remember, she said, our stealth fields are not magic. They hide you as long as you manage heat and emission. If you fire too much, stay too long, or panic and run in a straight, bright line, they will see. Trust your drills. Trust the dark. Jonah felt his crew's eyes turn to him after the call ended. He gave a small nod. You heard them, he said. We fight smart, or we do not fight. At all, the days bled away. On some nights, faint glows at the edge of the sky made a few careful watchers frown. Ion storms, they were told. Sensor tests, nothing to fear. On those same nights in the outer dark, countless Imperial ships slid closer. Their drives burned bright, their hulls humming with field energy. To them, the solar system still looked weak. They had reports of invisible attackers, yes, but they weighed those against centuries of easy victories. They believed their size would be enough. Then, at last, the day came. Sensors rang soft tones in black command. Priya's face appeared on every main display. Transit disruptions at multiple points, she said. Here they come. Evelyn straightened. All black units, stand by. This is the main event. You watched the edge of Sol light up. Space bent and smoothed in a wide shell. Dozens of huge Imperial ships tore their way through reality in a rippling wave. For a moment, lines of fire marked their entry. Then those lines cooled, and the ships resolved into solid form. Battle carriers with wide, heavy bodies. Lance ships with long, sharp prows. Support vessels bristling with antennae and docking clamps. More followed, and more. Mason's voice was low. Final count, 332 combatants, not including escorts and drones. Their logistics spine is thick and deep. This is bigger than any war game we ever ran. Evelyn answered without fear in her tone. Then we learned fast. The Imperial Armada took a moment to settle, to form its spear shape. The point aimed inward, toward where the sun burned and Earth orbited. The logistics spine stretched behind, full of fuel, parts, command, brains, med bays. You moved from that vast spear to the small blue world at the center of its path. On Earth, in cities all over the globe, people stopped in mid-step. The sky did not crack open. The sun did not dim. but orbital display nets suddenly changed. Civilian feeds cut to an all channels warning for the first time in living memory. A simple line appeared. Outer system traffic alert, non-human fleet confirmed. Faces lifted, fingers tightened on railings. In Nairobi, President Cross stood before a camera, ready with his calmer speech. He did not mention the size of the fleet. He did not say war. He spoke of tension, of protective measures, of confidence in our defenses. He did not know if that last part was true, but he knew he needed his people to believe that they were not helpless. High above, in Black Command, the time for speeches was over. "Mason," Evelyn said, "bring up our positions." The display over the room's center flickered, then showed the solar system in layers. The Empire's spear glowed bright red, its ships tagged, scattered around it. Almost invisible were small dark marks. Black Armada units in place. "Phase 1, Mason said. "We hit the sides of the spear. Make them look left and right instead of straight ahead." "Begin," Evelyn ordered. Far out on the Empire's right flank, hidden in the shadow of a slow-moving chunk of ice, 3 black ships waited. They let the Armada pass, counting seconds, then slid into a dark transit curve that would bring them up along the side of the formation. Their hulls stayed cool. Their drives barely hummed. "Target, Escort Cluster J2. Jonah's voice came over a closed squadron channel. "We do not aim at their biggest guns. We aim at eyes and ears." They arrived like ghosts. On an Imperial side screen, sensors barely caught 3 small cold smudges before those smudges fired. Focus charges tailored by Prius models shot out and rode along the grain of the Empire's own field flows. Shields that were tuned to push away big, loud threats did not know what to do with something that slipped in sideways. 3 sensor ships on the Empire's flank went dead in less than a second. Their dishes shattered. Their power grids fried. No grand explosions, just sudden silence. Flares on right flank. An Imperial officer shouted, "We are losing peripheral coverage." "Where is the attacker?" the fleet commander demanded. "Unknown. No stable trace, just gaps." Before they could respond, on the left flank another black wing struck, then vanished into a dark route. Evelyn watched from Black Command, and vanished into a dark route. Evelyn watched from Black Command. "They will tighten now," she said. "Pull in their sides to protect their spine. That is what a big fleet thinks it must do." Mason nodded, and when they do, they give us their back. On Imperial decks, orders flew. Protect logistics. Bring support ships further inside formation. The great spear's sides folded in, just a little, enough to pull its support closer, enough to narrow its long, glowing spine. Priya spoke over the net. "Dark Route 17A now connects straight from our outer net to a point directly behind their command line. We could not use it while their flanks were wide. Now we can." Evelyn did not smile, but her eyes sharpened. "Black Group Alpha, you will ride 17A. Your job is to gut their spine." This is where we pay them back for the ultimatum. Jonah was not part of Alpha. His ship and others formed part of the net that would keep pressure on the sides. Still, he felt a chill when he heard the plan. Alpha Wing's captains checked their crews. Many were young, but their hands moved with sharp, practiced care. They were not going to charge in a straight line. They were going to slide through a path almost no sensor could see. Engage 17A came the order. In the outer dark, a set of black hulls shifted, then slipped into nothing. Their signatures folded in even tighter. For a few seconds, even Black Command could not track them clearly. You followed, feeling the strange tilt as ships rode along a bent gravity path that no Empire map had marked. Then, in a quiet instant, they came out behind the Empire's spear in the middle of its logistic spine. It was like appearing in the center of a crowded, unguarded street. Fuel carriers stretched out in a loose line. Repair tugs floated near them. Command repeaters hung in carefully spaced clusters, passing orders forward. They were shielded, but only lightly. The Empire had never expected an enemy to show up here. Enemies were supposed to be in front. Evelyn's voice came through to Alpha in a flat, firm tone. You have 90 seconds before they adapt. Hit as much as you can, then vanish. Do not get greedy. Alpha moved in. First pass. Fuel. Guided charges drilled into tanker cores. Not big enough to turn them into suns, but strong enough to crack their drive systems and lock their internal fuel behind twisted metal. Engines died, pumps seized, lights flickered. Second pass. Command relays. Sharp, narrow beams of energy, tuned to scramble specific frequencies, cut through the thin shields of midstream. Data bursts broke midstream. Orders fell silent. Third pass. Repair. Dock arms snapped. Tool bays went dark. Nano repair vats froze mid-cycle. From the Empire's main bridge, it felt like being punched in the spine by an unseen hand. Logistics loss confirmed on vectors 3, 5, and 7. We are blind in our rear net. Fuel is not flowing to front units. Command delays spiking. Identify. Attacker, the commander shouted. We have partial visuals of small dark craft. No transponder. No recognized profile. They hit and vanish. The 90 seconds ended. Alpha Wing, true to training, did not stay to make sure of every hit. They peeled off and dove back into Dark Route 17A, drives flaring for only split heartbeats before going cold. As they slipped away, two ships took glancing blows from wild Imperial fire. One lost an outer hull plate. Another had a section of its field generator fried. But both managed to get back into transit. In Black Command, Mason let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Alpha is clear, he said. Logistics spine damage is heavy. Their fuel flow is cut by, at best guess, 40%. Their command delay has gone from seconds to minutes in some sectors. Priya spoke, voice tight with a mix of fear and pride. We just turned their perfect spear into a heavy stick, she said. It can still hurt us, but it will not move as cleanly as it wanted to. Evelyn did not relax. Her eyes were on a new pattern forming on the map. "They are angry now," she said. "Watch for the swing." The Empire's answer was simple and brutal. If they could not keep their backs safe, they would try to crush the threat at the front, faster. Fleet captains received half-complete orders and filled in the rest themselves. The spear leaned forward, drives roaring, full push inward. Mason translated. They hope to reach inner system fast, strike fear in Earth, then sort out the mess behind them later. Evelyn shook her head. "We cannot let them near Earth. We keep them out here, out of sight. This day's a ghost war, or it becomes a planet fire." She changed the plan with a few quick words. "All black units, adjust. New focus, break their spearhead. We have cut the arm. Now we go for the hand that holds the knife." Jonah's unit, Delta Wing, got its new orders. "You will target their lead command cluster," Mason told them. "Not the very tip, but the ships that feed data and control to the front. Without those, the spearhead swings blind." Jonah's pilot swallowed hard. "That means getting closer. But we do not stay. We punch, then run." The battle grew faster, stranger. Black ships appeared in sudden bursts near the Imperial front, fired, and disappeared again. Imperial guns spat beams and torpedoes in wild arcs, too slow to catch ships that were not where they seemed to be. Sometimes a beam did catch a black hull as it came out of transit. A little late, when that happened, the result was sharp and terrible. A dark ship flaring bright for a moment, then breaking apart into spinning pieces. Each loss hit Black Command hard. Names scrolled in red on a side panel. Evelyn read every one. She did not look away. But for every black ship lost, more Imperial vessels fell into chaos. Frontline command boats went dark. Targeting nets shattered. Gun captains found their screens full of static or double images. Orders arrived late, or not at all. On more than one Imperial deck, a captain took a shot at what seemed to be a black ship, only to realize too late that it was a friendly vessel caught in a sensor glitch. "Stop firing until you have confirmation," someone shouted. "How?" came the answer. "Our sensors lie. Our maps change." You watched as the once perfect spear began to bend and twist. Units drifted out of place. Some surged ahead without support. Others lagged, confused by broken orders. The bright, smooth formation Earth had feared now looked more like a cluster of wounded animals pushing blindly into a dark forest. Mason leaned forward, eyes flicking from one sector to another. "They are breaking," he said, "not in numbers, in shape. Their spear is turning into separate clumps. Then we treat each clump as its own fight," Evelyn replied. "Hit the ones that threaten inner orbits most. Let the lost ones wander out there for now." Priya added, "Careful. Our own stealth fields are heating. Ammo levels are dropping. We cannot keep this pressure up forever. Evelyn heard her but did not slow. She knew there was a line somewhere ahead, some point where the Black Armada would no longer have what it needed to keep slashing and vanishing. But if they eased off too soon, the Empire would regain shape and punch through. So we give everything we can before we hit that line, she said quietly. Back on Earth, the sky began to show signs that even normal people could not miss. Faint streaks of light moved at odd angles across the night, not like meteors, too steady, too controlled. Some ground telescopes caught quick blurs of light where no satellites were supposed to be. Rumors spread fast across social nets. Is that them? Is that our ships? Are we fighting? President Cross stood again before cameras, this time with less to hide. Yes, he said to the world. There is conflict in the outer regions. Our defense forces are engaged to protect Earth. We chose, years ago, to prepare quietly for such a day. That choice is now being tested. He did not mention the name Black Armada, but clips of dark shapes near the edge of the solar system began to leak onto private feeds. People started using the name on their own, pulled from rumor and half-told stories. Black Fleet, someone posted. No, Black Armada, someone else replied. On oppressed worlds far from Sol, Ambassador Leora Venn and others like her watched the broken, unclear reports coming in through hidden networks. The Empire has met harder resistance than expected in Sol. Read one coded update. Main fleet slowed. Losses unclear. Command net unstable. In a factory dorm on a controlled world, a worker read the message 3 times, then passed it to a friend. They are not gods, the friend said. Back at the battle, Jonah's ship dove into its most dangerous run yet. Delta Wing had reached a point near the forward command cluster, the brainstem of the spear. Shields here were thick. Guns were many, but so was confusion. Target. Central Command Hub, CB1, Mason's voice came over the line. We have traced most of their front orders through that ship. It dies, their front goes dark. Their front goes dark. Jonah looked at the display. Armored, wrapped in a weave of smaller escorts. Priya, he said, do we have anything strong enough to punch through that shell? Priya's voice came back. Tight. We have 3 heavy penetrators left across the fleet. 2 are already committed on other targets. You have the final one. His weapons officer looked at him. Sir, that means we only get 1 clear shot. I know, Jonah said. He felt fear, but he also felt something else, a clear sense of why he was here. He thought of the ultimatum on every screen. He thought of kids on Earth looking up at strange lines in the sky. Delta Wing slipped into a dark curve that would spit them out barely a few thousand kilometers from the hub. That was point-blank range on this scale. Stealth will not fully hold at that distance, Priya warned. They will see you. We only need them to see us too late, Jonah answered. They came out of transit like knives thrown into a storm. Alarms exploded on the Imperial command ship. Unidentified vessels at close range. Shields spiking. Where did they come from? Jonah did not waste a second. Fire, heavy penetrator, he ordered. The weapon left the black hull like a dart. Its own small field flared, just enough to punch a narrow hole in the command ship's shield for itself, boring inward. For a moment it vanished into the hub's armor. Then the hub's lights went white. Inside, computers tripped, then died. Command minds, whatever form they took, lost contact with their limbs. The main forward data lines melted. From the outside it looked simple. The big command ship flickered, then went dark. Engines dropped to idle. Guns fell silent, but across the spearhead the effect was huge. Frontline ships suddenly stopped getting updates. Firing solutions froze. Maneuver orders stopped repeating. Mason watched the front of the red spear symbols lose their glow. Then drift. We did it, he breathed. Their spearhead is blind. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Jonah. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Jonah, she asked. He did not answer at once. On his bridge, lights flickered. Shots from panicked escorts had hit his ship as it fled. One engine was gone. A third of his hull's sensors were dead. The dark transit route they had planned to slip into was suddenly much harder to reach. "Admiral," he said at last, voice rough, "Delta is damaged but alive. We are trying to reach a safe vector. Do not die for pride." She replied, "If you can break away, do it. You have already done more than enough." He tried. His pilot turned the wounded ship toward a dark curve, but the Empire was learning. Some of its captains had started firing, not at what they could see, but at where they guessed the black ships might go. Random, wide, brutal shots. A wild beam clipped Jonah's ship again. Warning alarm screamed. Drive field collapse in Sector 4. His engineer shouted, "We cannot hold a stable transit entry." Jonah saw the maps in his mind, saw the thin line between life and destruction. He also saw something else, a cluster of Imperial vessels nearby, half-ordered, confused, trying to reshape a new command net. Now that CB-1 was gone, if he ran and failed, his ship might die empty in the dark. If he stayed, he made no grand speech. Not yet. He just said, "Hold us together for now." "Sir?" his pilot asked. He looked once at the small image of Earth glowing in the corner of his screen, then cut his line to black command. He did not want Evelyn to waste seconds arguing with him while the battle shifted. "Jonah, report," came her voice. He did not answer. Back in black command, Evelyn's eyes narrowed. She knew that silence. She had heard it in past wars, in the spaces just before someone chose to spend their life to save others. "Track Delta," she snapped. "Keep a watch, but do not break pattern for them. We cannot throw the whole net off for one ship." Her voice did not shake when she said one, but you felt the weight behind it. Around Jonah's ship, the Empire's spear was indeed bending. Forward units, now partly blind, began to slow. Support ships struggled to catch up. Gaps opened between groups. Some sections turned to face the new threats behind them. Others still pushed forward on old orders. The clean spear was gone. In its place, clusters of fire drifted and lashed out in panic. Black Armada units continued to cut at the edges, slipping in and out of dark routes. Ammo counters dropped. Stealth fields heated. Every choice now cost more. "Priya," Mason said, "we are burning through reserves." "I know," she replied. "We are running ships hotter than we ever tested. So far they hold. Later we will pay a price in breakdowns." "Later is fine," Evelyn said. "Right now we must make sure they do not see Earth." She looked at the map. The main Imperial mass was still well outside the orbit of Neptune. Inner system. Safe for the moment. "Keep them there," she said softly. "Keep them out in the dark." And so the Black Armada did. For hours that felt like years, small, quiet ships danced around a giant, tearing pieces from it. They broke command chains. They cut fuel. They forced a vast, proud armada to stumble in confusion far from its goal. They took losses. Names kept appearing in red. Some ships went silent in mid-call. Sometimes a black vessel misjudged a transit entry and came out at the wrong angle into direct fire. Sometimes stealth fields failed at the worst moment. Each time, crews on other ships tightened their jaws and went on. There was no time to mourn. Far off on oppressed worlds, bits of data and rumors skated across back channels. The Empire's greatest fleet. "As in trouble," some said. "They have taken real losses," others added. "There is a small world called Earth that will not bow." Resistant cells that had stayed quiet for years met in hidden rooms. People who had given up looked again at secret old flags. If a tiny blue planet could stand, maybe they could stand a little taller where they were. In the heart of the Empire, news of the messy battle in Sol reached high halls. Faces turned hard. Plans changed. Someone ordered a new kind of response. But that was for later. For now, here in the outer dark of Sol, the Black Armada had done what no one in the galaxy had believed a small, primitive system could do. It had met the Empire's greatest spear not with a wall of bright guns, but with quiet, sharp minds and ships that hid in the dark. It had broken the spear's clean shape. It had turned a perfect attack into a hunt, full of fear and confusion. In Black Command, Evelyn Hart stood straighter, though she felt the strain in every part of her. "Status of the flagship?" she asked at last. Mason pulled up a detailed view. At the center of the broken armada, a single huge symbol glowed brighter than the rest. The Empire flagship, bigger than any other ship, carrying the highest-ranked commanders, the deepest command corps. "It is hurt," Mason said. "Shields bruised, some escorts gone. But it still stands, still giving orders. They are rough, but they are there." Priya smiled without joy. "Cut off a snake's tail. It rise," she said. "Cut off its head, it dies." Evelyn looked at the flagship's long, scarred form. "Then," she said, "for this war to truly change, that ship must fall. She knew what that meant. To reach it now, with ammo low and ships damaged, would cost more than careful strikes and clever routes. It would cost lives paid in full. You felt the room grow heavier as that truth settled in. The Empire's spear was broken, but not dead. The battle still burned. And somewhere out there, Captain Jonah Blake, wounded and silent, was already turning his own ship toward a choice that would decide how this story ended. The Black Armada had pulled apart the Empire's perfect plan. Now someone would have to pay the price to finish what they had started. The battle had gone on so long that even the stars felt tired. In the outer dark of Sol, the Empire's great spear was no longer a clean shape. It was a scattered mess of burning wrecks, drifting hulks, and broken clusters still trying to obey half-finished orders. Black Armada ships had done what they were built to do. They had cut fuel, snapped command lines, and turned a perfect advance into a confused struggle far from Earth. But it had cost them. In Black Command, Admiral Evelyn Hart stood at the center of the room, looking older than she had just hours before. The main display showed the field around Neptune and beyond. Black Armada status: ships operational, 67 ships heavily damaged, 29 ships lost, 51 ammunition, low across all units. Stealth fields still hummed, but many were strained. Heat sinks were near full. Some ships had patched hulls, with emergency plating that glowed dim orange with leftover heat. Across from her, Mason Reed rubbed at his eyes, then forced his hands back to his console. "They are pulling back in places," he said. "Some Imperial units are trying to anchor themselves. Others are just drifting." But the flagship he tapped to control. The view zoomed in on the heart of the broken Armada. There it was. The Empire flagship hung in space, like a wounded animal. It was far larger than any Black Armada ship, its hull scarred with burns, its outer armor cracked in several places. Half of its escort ring was gone, turned to debris. A third of its surface lights were dark, yet it still lived. Sensors showed energy pulsing through its core. Weapons along its sides still glowed, some firing in sharp bursts whenever a black ship came too close. Weak, rough orders still flowed from its comm arrays to the scattered Imperial units around it. "As long as that thing stays," Mason said softly, "this fleet still has a spine." Priya Ayer's face floated on a side screen, pale and drawn. She had been awake far too long, managing stealth fields, drive lines, and damage control from her deep lab. "Our ships are at their limit," she said. "We pushed them harder than any test I ever ran. Hull stress is high. Heat sinks are almost full. If we try one more large wave of attacks, we may lose as many ships to break down as to enemy fire." Evelyn listened. Eyes on the flagship's icon, she thought of Earth, still safe inside the orbit of Neptune. She thought of the children who had seen strange lines in the sky and did not yet know how close danger had come. She also thought of the message this battle had already sent out into the galaxy, carried by rumor and stolen logs. The Empire could be hurt, Now there was a new question. Could the Empire be shamed if the flagship, the proud symbol of imperial power, limped away? The Empire would say the battle was a messy victory. They would fix their ships, adjust their tactics, and come again. If it did not leave at all, she took a breath. Mason, she said, options for killing the flagship. He had known the question was coming. He still flinched when he answered. Standard attacks will not do it, he said. We are too low on ammo, and their core armor is still thick. He said we would have to send multiple wings in close, and we would lose many just getting near. We might still fail. And non-standard, she asked. Priya spoke before he could. There is always the old way, she said quietly. Ramming. Take a black hull, load it with all remaining charges. Aim it at a weak spot and drive it in. No stealth, no soft touch, just mass and speed and fire. The room fell very still. Even the background hum of machines seemed softer. Survival odds? Evelyn asked. For the ship that goes in, there is no way out. You felt the weight of that hang over the room. Words like hero and martyr did not appear on any screen. These people had seen too much loss already to use such bright, clean labels. They just knew that someone would have to die so that billions would not. Evelyn turned slowly, looking at the status list of every black ship that could still move. Many were damaged. Some were too slow now, too broken to make a final run. Others had full crews, but sat in positions badly placed for a straight charge. Mason spoke again. There is one ship that could reach the flagship with a clear vector, he said. It is damaged, but its main drive still functions, and its position is favorable. He tapped a control. A single symbol lit up near the flagship, still in motion, still trying to move through pockets of fire. Ship ID K-27. Captain Jonah Blake. Evelyn closed her eyes for a heartbeat. She heard his last rough report in her mind. Delta is damaged, but alive. We are trying to reach a safe vector. He had gone silent after that, cutting his line when his ship took more hits. She had guessed what that might mean. Mason, she said, is his comm link stable? We have a narrow beam, Mason answered. But it might break if he moves closer to the flagship. Their jamming is still strong there. Open it, she said. On Jonah Blake's bridge, things did not look like the clean, cool control rooms of training. Panels were cracked. A thin haze of smoke hung in the air, pulled slowly toward a half-sealed bulkhead where the hull had been pierced and patched with emergency foam. 2 crew members lay strapped to stretchers along the wall. Unconscious but stable. Others worked their stations with bandaged hands and tired eyes. Jonah stood because his chair's support had broken in the last hit. He held on to the back of a half-melted rail to stay steady. The flagship loomed in the main screen image, a huge twisted shape against the star field. It filled most of their view now. Range? Jonah asked. 300,000 kilometers. And closing, his pilot answered. We have enough drive to adjust, but not enough for a clean escape burn if we go any closer. Yes, Jonah said. I know. A soft tone sounded. The comm officer, face streaked with grime, looked up. Admiral Hart on narrow beam, she said. Signal is weak but clear. Put her through, Jonah said. Evelyn's voice came into the bridge, calm but softer than usual. Jonah, she said. Admiral, he replied. You sound like you have bad news. He tried to make it a joke. It fell a little flat, but you could hear the effort. There is no easy way to say this, Evelyn answered. We have hit the flagship with everything we can from a distance. Our ships are drained. Ammo is low. Your position is close, Jonah finished. He watched the flagship's image, close enough to matter. Priya's voice joined the link. Your hull is damaged, but still strong enough to carry a full charge, she said. If you load what we have left of heavy ordnance into your frame and drive directly into their weakened side, we believe you can break through to their core. He asked. Then they keep coming, Mason said, from his station. They leave this system bloodied, but proud. They rebuild. Next time, they bring tools built from this fight, better sensors, better counters. We will not get the same chance again. Evelyn spoke one more time, slowly. I am not ordering you to do this, Jonah, she said. I will not make it sound noble to die. You and your crew have every right to try for survival. You have already given more than enough. He let that hang in the air for a long second. His eyes moved over his bridge. He saw his pilot biting a lip hard enough to draw blood. His comm officer, hands shaking slightly, but still steady on the keys. The engineer, leaning one shoulder against a panel, breath coming fast. He thought of Earth, not in words, but in flashes. Crowded markets in Lagos, the smell of rain in New Delhi, the slow roll of waves against the old coasts. He thought of kids who would never see any of this battle, who just wanted to graduate, to meet friends, to live small, normal days. He also thought of the ultimatum on every screen, the cold voice saying, rebellion will be corrected. Quietly, he made his choice. Admiral, he said, you told us once we were not here to die for drama. I believe that. I still do. I meant it, she replied. So do I, he said. If we do this, it is not for a story. It is to make sure this empire knows, down to its bones, that Earth is not a place it can break and forget. If K-27 rams that ship and ends it, every officer who survives on their side will remember standing on a deck that shook under them. They will remember fear. They will carry that fear home. Evelyn's reply came slower this time. I cannot promise your names will be told, she said. Some of this war will always stay hidden. That is what makes it work. Jonah smiled, a small, tired curve of his lips. That is all right, he said. I do not need my name on a wall. I just need Earth to still be there when kids wake up tomorrow. He glanced at his crew. This is not my choice alone, he told them. You all know what Priya just said. Ramming means no way back. I will not force anyone to stay. If you want to try for escape, say so now. We will find a way to get you to pods, to transfers, something. Silence. His pilot nodded first. If we run, we might live a few more hours. She said, if we hit them, maybe my little brother back home gets years. I will take years for him over hours for me. The engineer snorted softly. I did not spend 10 years learning how to keep these ships alive just to back away when it matters most. The comm officer wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. My mother always said, make your life count for something beyond yourself, she said. This counts. One by one, every conscious crew member gave some small sign. A nod, a raised hand, a straightened back. No bright speeches, just agreement. Jonah turned back to the screen. You heard them, Admiral, he said. We will do it. On the other end of the link, Evelyn Hart stood very still. Understood, she answered. I thank you. Sounds too small. But I thank you, all of you. Priya's voice was rough. I am sending you a final ordnance plan, she said. We will reroute Ramon triges from nearby damaged ships to you through drone pods. It will look to enemy sensors like debris drifting. Your engineer will have to fuse everything into your frame as fast as possible. Jonah looked toward the engineer. The older man straightened. I have it, he said. If the whole rips apart too early, blame my old hands. Priya tried to laugh. It came out like a choke. I trust those hands more than any auto system, she said. For the next short stretch of time, you watched K-27 prepare to become something else. Small pods, dark and cold, drifted in from the sides. The crew caught them with thin grapplers and dragged them inside, then down into the ship's spine. The engineer and two techs moved through narrow corridors, opening panels, locking charges into structural beams, tying them into the power grid. They worked fast, knowing every second brought the flagship a little closer or gave it a little more time to recover. On the bridge, Jonah stayed at his post, eyes on the growing image of the enemy ship. The Empire flagship, for its part, was not quiet. It had felt the loss of its spearhead and the cuts to its spine. It knew, at whatever level it thought, that this battle had not gone as planned. But it still believed in its size and in its name. Its gunners fired at any hint of motion. Its command corps tried to rebuild order from fragments. Its command arrays spat orders and threats into the broken net. On its bridge, a high Imperial officer stood, injured but upright, staring at a screen filled with static and partial data. He had been told this system would be a lesson to the galaxy. Now he saw his proud fleet scattered. He ground his teeth. Who are these people? He muttered. This backwater should not be able to do this. A junior officer pointed to a small blip on the screen. Unknown vessel, sir, she said. Damaged, but moving straight toward us. No clear signature. Low heat, but vector is direct. He frowned. At this range? Alone? Yes, sir. He watched the blip grow. He did not yet understand what it meant. Back in Black Command, Mason tracked the same symbol. K-27. His voice shook just a little. We can keep a line open for maybe another minute before jamming cuts us off. Evelyn did something she rarely did. She stepped away from the center, out of the clear ring to the edge of the room. She leaned one hand against a cold metal support, unseen by most. You were there close. You saw her lips move in words no one else heard. Not a prayer exactly, but a quiet hope. Let this mean something, please. Then she went back to her place. Jonah, she said, we are with you as long as we can be. On K-27, alarms pulsed a soft red. The engineer's final report came through. Charges set, he said. We have tied the whole frame into the control grid. Once we push the main trigger, that is it. Thank you, Jonah said. Everyone, strap in. They took their seats, fastening harnesses. The pilot's hands rested on the manual controls. Course locked, she said. We are aimed at a major armor seam near their forward command bulge. Priya's data says it was already hit earlier. It is the softest spot we will get. Drive? Drive? He asked. Main engine? At 60% capacity, she replied. Enough for one strong push. Then take us in. Not with the silent slide of a dark transit route, but with the raw burn of an open drive. For the first time in this battle, K-27 shone on enemy sensors like a clear, bright target. Imperial gunners saw the rising line and tensed. Target at bearing 071 came a call. Small attacker, direct vector, destroy it. The Imperial commander snapped. Beams sithed across space. Explosive charges streaked toward the oncoming black hull. On K-27, the ship shuddered as near misses rocked their frame. One bolt scraped along the side, tearing away an outer gondola and lighting the inside of the bridge with fierce white for a second. We lost port auxiliary, the engineer shouted, but the main spine holds. Hold it a little longer, Jonah answered. He felt no calm now, only a clear, sharp focus. He thought again of the ultimatum, of the words rebellion will be corrected. He spoke, almost to himself, not today. They closed the distance. The flagship grew so large in the view that its curves no longer made sense as a whole. It was just walls of metal, plates of armor, glowing vents. Imperial beams kept firing. Some glanced off, some struck burning holes, sending pieces of K-27 spinning away. Inside, the ship groaned like a living thing, but it did not break. Range? Jonah asked. 10,000 kilometers, the pilot said. Her voice was high and thin with strain. 5, 2. At 1,000 kilometers, alarms in Black Command went red. Signal is breaking up, Mason reported. Jamming is too heavy. We are losing them. Keep the channel open, Evelyn said, even if all we hear is noise. Noise did fill the line. Static. Half cries. A crack of laughter from someone on K-27. Then, for a brief, clear second, Jonah's voice came through. Tell Earth They did not kneel, he said. Then the line cut. On the flagship's bridge, the Imperial commander realized, too late, what was happening. Ram attempt. He shouted, "All power to front shields. Divert fire. Divert." He never finished the sentence. K-27 struck. The impact was not a simple crash. The black ship's spine, loaded with charges and tied into its drive, became like a spear, whose tip exploded inward as it hit. The hull of the flagship bent, crumpled, then tore. For a brief instant, a blinding light burst from the point of collision, brighter than anything that had been seen in the battle so far. It was not the neat line of a beam. It was not the bloom of a simple explosion. It was a wave that rolled through the flagship's body, tearing along corridors, through decks, across chambers. Core supports snapped, power lines ripped free. The central command core, whatever shape it had, took a direct, shattering hit. From far away on sensors all across the field, the Empire flagship symbol flared bright, then went dark. Not dim, not offline, gone. Black Command fell silent. No one cheered. At first. They just stared at the sudden empty spot where the flagship's icon had been. Then another icon vanished. K-27. Mason swallowed hard. Flagship. Destroyed, he said. K-27. Lost. Priya's shoulders shook once. She turned her face away from the camera for a moment, then back. Evelyn did not look away. Her voice, when it came, was quiet and very clear. "Log it," she said. "Flagship kill by ramming. Ship K-27, Captain Jonah Blake, crew of K-27. Caused deliberate sacrifice to prevent further advance on Earth," Mason typed with stiff fingers. Those words went into the record, locked into Horizon Black's hidden files. Maybe they would be declassified someday. Maybe not, but they existed out in the field. The effect on the remaining Imperial ships was sudden and deep. They felt the loss of their flagship like a body losing its head. Orders stopped. Backup command nets tried to take over, but they were already damaged, cut by earlier strikes. Some captains, stunned, simply stopped moving, their ships drifting as fires burned along their hulls. Others panicked, turning their vessels away from the battle in blind, fast burns, trying to flee without any plan. A few, enraged, lashed out at random, firing at anything that moved. The great spear that had entered Saul as a proud, ordered weapon now broke apart completely. They could not. They were too damaged, too low on resources. Instead, Evelyn gave one last careful order. "All black units, this is Hart. Stand down from full attack. Focus on defense. Protect inner orbits from any fragment that still tries to push inward. Let the ones that run, run. Let the ones that drift, drift. You are not going to finish them?" Mason asked quietly. "We already did," she answered. "Every minute our ships stay out there, bright and pushing, is another chance for something to go wrong. We have done enough." She looked at the map. The Empire's spear was gone. In its place were broken clusters of ships, most turning away or simply hanging in the dark. Like dead metal, the message is sent. She said they came to erase us. They leave with their flagship in pieces. That is enough. Slowly, the noise of battle faded. Shots became rare. Engines cooled. Debris, twisted bits of hull, shattered drones, burnt-out weapons, drifted in silent clouds. Black ships, their black hulls now scarred and scorched, moved carefully through the wreckage, guiding any still dangerous objects away from the paths that led toward the inner planets. You watched as crews on these ships looked out through viewports at the ruins around them. Some faces showed relief, others showed shock. Many just looked tired beyond words. Far beneath, on Earth, the sky remained blue. There were no bright flashes visible, no great streaks of fire, but the global nets knew enough now that no simple story would do. President Daniel Cross stood again before the cameras, this time with a different kind of truth. People of Earth, he said, the fleet that threatened us has been broken in the outer dark. Many of you have seen strange signs in the sky, strange patterns on your screens. You were right to be curious. You were right to be afraid. But now you can also be something else. Grateful. He paused. For years, a small group among us prepared for this day. In secret, not out of pride, but out of duty. They built ships you never saw in places you never visited. They trained crews whose names you do not know. Today, those crews saved this world. He thought of Jonah Blake, but did not speak his name. The Black Armada was still a secret by design. There are lives we will never get back, he went on. Ships that will never return. I know that some of you lost sons, daughters, parents, without ever knowing what they were really doing out there. I cannot tell you every detail, not yet, but I can tell you this. Their sacrifice means that your next breath right now is taken in a free world. On streets and in homes, people watched, hands still. Some cried without quite knowing why. Some cheered a little, then stopped, sensing that had cost so much. In schools, teachers put aside planned lessons and let students talk. Did we really beat them? One student asked. We stopped them, the teacher said. That is not the same as winning forever. But it is more than anyone thought we could do on oppressed worlds far away. Hidden radios and illegal screens lit up with the same basic story, passed along through Leora Ven and others like her. In Sol System, the Empire's greatest fleet failed. Its flagship was destroyed. A small, primitive planet called Earth still stands. In deep mines, workers who had always kept their heads down looked at each other with new thoughts. In cramped city blocks, young people painted small black ship shapes on walls where guards could not see. The idea grew. The Empire was not unbreakable. Later, much later, historians and storytellers would argue about what this meant. Some would say this battle was the turning point of a new age. Others would say it was just the first crack in a very thick wall. But none of that mattered in the quiet hours, just after the fight. Out near Neptune, black Armada ships drifted in slow circles around each other, lights dimmed. Repair crews in suits moved along hulls, sealing holes with silver patches, checking for unseen stress. On a hangar deck inside a carrier, Priya walked past rows of burned and dented drones, her hand brushing lightly along their sides. She checked lists, signed off on damage reports, then stopped in a corner where no one was watching and let herself sit down, back against a crate, eyes closed. Her mind replayed models and numbers. It also replayed faces from the last calls of ships that had not made it back. She spoke softly, only to herself. "You did what we built you to do," she said. "I am sorry we could not bring you home." In Black Command, the main lights were dimmed now. Most of the heavy work was being done by secondary crews. Evelyn and Mason sat on a low bench to the side, 2 cups of water in their hands. Mason stared at the dark display where the flagship's icon used to be. "Do you think the Empire will come again soon?" he asked. "Yes," Evelyn said. "But not like this," he nodded. "They will study this battle," he said, "make new weapons, new sensors, new tricks. And so will we," she replied. "That is the other side of this." "We learned too," he thought for a moment. "We also changed something bigger than tactics," he said. "Didn't we?" She looked at him. "People out there," he went on, waving one tired hand toward the stars, "on worlds we have never seen, now know that the Empire's spear can break. That has to matter." "It does," Evelyn said. "Fear is a kind of chain, not the whole chain, but enough for some minds to move again." She put her cup down, stood, and walked to the center of the room. "Record this," she told the system. A soft light came on, marking that a log was being made. "This is Admiral Evelyn Hart, Black Command," she said. "Battle of Seoul, main engagement. Final note, the Black Armada was created to be a secret, a tool hidden in the dark. Today, that secret saved our world. But it also lit a small light out there in the wider galaxy. Others now know that the Empire can be hurt. That knowledge will spread, with or without us." She paused. "We must be careful," she continued. "Power gained in war can grow sharp in the wrong hands. The Black Armada must not become a new empire in smaller form. We will stay what we were built to be. A shield with sharp edges, not a crown." She ended the log. Later, she would meet President Cross in person, in a quiet room with a plain table, far from cameras. They would speak about what came next, how to rebuild, how much truth to share, how to handle messages from distant worlds now asking for guidance or weapons or help. For now, though, those talks were still in the future. For now, there was just the slow, careful work of cleaning up after a storm. In a small corner of a distant station, Ambassador Leora Venn watched new messages arrive. Some were simple thank yous from people she had never met. Others were wary questions from worlds that had lived under the Empire for so long. They had forgotten how to think for themselves. She wrote replies with care. "No, Earth is not your new ruler," she sent. "No, we will not tell you what to do. Yes, we can share what we learned about stealth, and about planning, and about standing together quietly before a loud power. She smiled faintly as she sent one last file to a tiny resistance group on a harsh mining moon. It was not a weapon. It was a story. A plain, factual account, stripped of names, about a damaged small ship that had rammed a flagship to protect a world it would never see again. Use this as you see fit, she added. Some fights are won before the first shot, in the mind. Let this help. On Earth, normal life began to press forward again, as it always tries to do. Trains ran, markets opened, people went back to work. But something under the surface had changed. In private talks, in small classes, in late-night feeds, people spoke of the hidden fleet that had guarded them. Some still doubted, saying it was all governance spin, a story to comfort. Others said they had seen enough strange things in the sky to know better. Kids drew rough pictures of dark ships, sharp and simple. Older people who had seen past wars felt a strange mix of pride and fear. They were proud that their world had stood up. They were afraid of what new storms might come now that Earth had shown its teeth. You moved above it all, above the cities and seas, above the thin blue line of air. Far beyond, among the cold rocks and thin dust, black Armada ships still moved, not as a huge ready force, but as watchful fragments, patrolling, repairing, rethinking. They could no longer be called a pure secret. Too many small leaks and shared rumors had turned Black Armada into a phrase people used. But they were still quiet. No parades, no loud displays. Crews patched hulls. Engineers ran tests. Priya's team adjusted stealth fields based on everything they had seen. Mason rewrote tactics, using what had worked and learning from what had failed. Evelyn watched over it all, calm and steady, always with the same aim in mind. Keep Earth free without becoming the thing they had just fought. In the years ahead, the Empire would send envoys and new threats. Some oppressed worlds would rise. Others would fall. New alliances would form. New dangers would appear. Earth would not be safe forever. No place ever is. But from this day on, every Imperial planner would have to mark Sol on their maps not as an easy, nameless dot, but as a place where an Armada had gone and suffered its first great shame. From this day on, every small world that felt alone would have a story to point to. There was once a little blue planet at the edge of an empire, they would say. It looked weak. It hid its strength in dark hulls and quiet hearts. When the Empire came, it did not kneel. You stayed with that thought as you drifted back, your unseen gaze passing through the last repair crews floating along the sides of a black hull, through Priya sleeping at her desk at last, through Mason staring out a port at distant stars, through Evelyn standing alone in a dim room, looking at a simple image of Earth turning slowly. The Black Armada could no longer be fully hidden. It had become a symbol, not just of clever ships and secret plans, but of something larger. The idea that intelligence, patience, and quiet courage can change the shape of power, even when the enemy seems too big to touch. Out in the galaxy, that idea would move in many forms: rumors, songs, data logs, half-true stories. It would give strength to some, anger to others, and fear to those who had ruled too long without question. Here, in this system, in this moment of quiet after storm, it meant something simple. A small, fragile world had chosen its own path, and for now at least, it still turned in peace under its clear blue sky.